Can AI coach me? And how legit is it? We're going to find out today as I, a professional life coach, try out my own chatbot life coach. So I recently learned how to program my own chatbot coach in ChatGPT by training it in my professional core competencies as well as my own personal style as a coach. And I've been extremely curious to try it out. Of course, we've all heard the battle cry from all industries about the impact of AI going on, how it's going to have an impact on all our jobs. And coaches across my industry frequently discuss the threat of AI and the missing humanity from such a tool. But it's my personal belief that, like with all change, the less you resist what is outside of your control and the more flexible and curious you become about it, the more opportunity there is to grow with it and not in spite of it. So I just really want to try this thing out and see if it can really coach me through some struggles I'm having right now. So let's see how it goes. I'm going to share 4 coaching requests. In other words, 4 things that I've been struggling with in different areas of my personal life, including my inner world, my marriage, my parenthood, and my business. And I want to see how it coaches me. So you'll get real-time responses that I get from the bot and how helpful it is to me in the moment. And I also want to share my reaction and feedback to the overall quality of the coaching that it's providing me. And just as a disclaimer, after filming these coaching conversations with my chatbot, I will be programming all of my feedback into the bot itself to improve it. So what you're going to see today is the beta product. And if you like this kind of content, let me know, and I can film another episode using the updated programming to see if it gets better as a coach. And if you'd like to try out this chatbot for yourself, I will include the free link to access it in the description box. Okay, let's stop talking and start coaching. I don't know what to do with my life or business. When I don't work, I feel purposeless. When I work, I miss my children. I don't get nourishing rest. I feel tired and depleted most of the time. I feel like my creative well is pretty dry, but I am accustomed to pushing through anyway. I don't know what to do from here. All right, the first response. What I hear in what you shared is not confusion so much as tension between several values that all deeply matter to you: purpose and contribution, presence with your children, creative expression, rest and vitality. Hang on. If you're just listening and you're not looking at the YouTube video, first of all, I would direct you to come to the YouTube video because you can read what I'm writing and receiving from the chatbot. And it'll be a lot clearer than me just reading everything, but I am scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and this thing has written a book to me. So I need to do a little training in the moment to it. So I want to have a conversation with you, not read all this information, because ain't nobody got time for that. That's overwhelming and not helpful. Ask me one powerful question for me to answer next. Then ask me one question at a time that drives open, new insight and awareness for me. All right, it said, thank you for saying that. Let's slow this way down, one question at a time. I'll stay curious with you. Here's the first one. When you imagine a day where you feel truly alive and nourished, not productive, not impressive, not deeply well. Not productive, not impressive, but deeply well. What is happening in that day? Take your time. What does that day actually look like? Okay. First impressions. I like this question. It gets me out of the past and problem mode of like witnessing what I don't want, and it instead is shifting the perspective to what I do want. So not bad. Let's go ahead and answer it. It looks like waking up well rested, taking Grace to school with Matt and Moxie and enjoying a coffee or treat together, getting ready for the day, working on my podcast with flow and interest in my topic, getting a few solid hours of work done in time to greet Grace when she gets home from school, or picking her up myself, then eating a delicious and nutritious lunch with Grace and Matt while Moxie is napping. Then doing a creative project like painting, playing guitar, scrapbooking, then rest and maybe head to a dance class or gym workout in time to be home by 4:30 when Grace and Moxie are finished playing with our nanny. Then the girls independently play happily while Matt and I hang out in the kitchen while he cooks and we talk lightheartedly. The girls get ready for bed and go to bed easily by 7:30. Then Matt and I connect until 9 and I go to sleep quick. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a glorious day. Thank you for painting that so vividly. I can almost feel the rhythm of that day. It has flow, creativity, family connection, and spaciousness in it. Nothing about it sounded frantic or overextended. So here's the next question. Which part of that day feels furthest away from your current reality right now? Okay, so what it's doing is establishing a gap, although it's a little surface level in my opinion. One thing that I noticed right off the bat is that one of the key skills and requirements of a coaching conversation is to establish a coaching request or a coaching agreement between the coach and the client. And what that basically does is sets everybody up for success. We know the goal of the conversation. We know what topic we're discussing. We know what's in the way. We know what the measure of success is for the client of like what they really want to walk away with. And we know the meaning of this in the greater perspective, in the big picture of their life. We don't want to just have an isolated conversation that kind of moves some pieces around, but doesn't really make a transformational shift for them. And right now, I'm expecting this to be just move some pieces around, surface level conversation based on the fact that it doesn't really know what I want out of this conversation. And these first couple of questions are kind of staying within the content of the topic and not something higher level. So that's feedback so far, but I will go ahead and answer this question. So which part of my day feels furthest away from my current reality right now? My restedness from the night is erratic. My well feels dry when I think of work stuff. I feel exhausted hanging out with my kids, especially if they are dysregulated. I just kind of want to be alone, sleep, and not be bothered right now. But then I feel guilty, lonely, and lazy. It responded, thank you for saying that honestly. There's a lot of self-awareness in what you just said, or what you just shared. Here's the next question. When you notice, I'm not a fan of the whole here's the next question. Like, you don't really need to say that. When you notice the moment where you just want to be alone, sleep, and not be bothered, what do you believe that feeling is actually asking from you? Okay, so this is towing the line of somatic awareness, which I appreciate. It's helping me connect more to my body and get curious about the need the feeling I'm having is actually communicating. So nice work, AI. Okay, so it could be the need to take a nap or slow down, not scroll or try to work when I'm tired, or journal ? That's insightful. These responses are so generic. You named slowing down, sleep, and journaling, all things that restore rather than produce. Here's the next question. When that need for rest or journaling shows up, what usually stops you from actually honoring it in that moment? Again, good job establishing the gap, like what's in the way of me having this thing that I want. The responses before these questions are just inane and robotic. So this is where AI definitely falls short because it's not listening to you. It's responding with a formula and like, that's great. That's insightful. That's honest. It's not really a person. So it's just mimicking compassionate listening. Okay, so then it asks, when that need for rest or journaling shows up, what usually stops you from actually honoring it in that moment? Okay, so feeling like that's not useful or a part of the plan I had for myself. That's really honest. Thank you for naming that. Here's the next question. Who created the plan you feel like you're supposed to follow? And what was that version of you hoping life would feel like by following it? That is a banger question. Yesterday me, or a me from before 2 kids. I keep thinking I can optimize my time and do it all because when I'm creatively fulfilled, I'm a better mom. But when I feel creatively frustrated, I'm also a frustrated mom. So neither side of me feels good when I'm depleted. But I just don't choose to journal and take time to rest. Parentheses, not just numb by binge watching a show in bed. That's a really important awareness you just named. Okay, so it's giving me some actual reflections right now. You're not just choosing rest that restores, you're choosing collapse that numbs. And underneath that is a part of you that still believes you should be able to run the plan created by a different version of you. So here's the next question. What do you think that earlier version of you didn't understand yet about the energetic reality of having 2 young children? Solid follow-up. That my needs change based on how much I'm giving to my kids and family. And sometimes I neglect my own needs, leaving me exhausted and uninspired. That's a really compassionate realization towards yourself. You're recognizing that your energy isn't fixed anymore. It's relational. It changes based on how much you're giving. So here's the next question. If your energy now moves in waves depending on what your kids and family need from you, what might change if your expectations for yourself moved in waves too, instead of saying fixed? Okay, I'll play. Then I fear I will be inconsistent and neglect my creative desires. That fear makes a lot of sense. It sounds like there's a part of you that believes consistency is the only thing protecting your creativity from disappearing. So here's the next question. Have there been seasons in your life where you stepped away from creativity for a while and it eventually came back to you? What was that like? Okay, so a past-based question, which is typically not the direction we're facing in coaching. Typically, it's a forward-focused conversation. But honestly, this is supportive in this instance because it can give me an idea of where I've been here before and what I did that time. Okay. So, yes, it was because I was healing from trauma and childbirth, my first one. I gave myself permission to experience quote unquote slow living, to relish true self care and breastfeeding and rest as quote productive. But I associate that time as dark and not full of light. That's a meaningful distinction you just made. You experienced permission to slow down, but the season itself also held darkness. So part of you may have linked the two together, as if slowing down also means entering a dim or heavy place. Solid reflection. So here's the question. What do you imagine would be different if you allowed yourself a slower season now, but intentionally filled it with things that feel light, nourishing, and life-giving instead of dark? I like that it's inviting me out of black and white thinking where I'm either slow and dark or fast and light. It's basically asking, like, what would life from slow and light look like? I like that. So my answer is I wouldn't hold myself to expectations of output. That's an important realization. I'm going to have to program these auto responses out because I am not a fan. So here's the next question. I'm also going to edit that out. If you temporarily released the expectation of output, what would you want your life to be about during this season instead? Great question. No notes. Healing, creating, connecting, and strengthening my body. That's a beautiful set of priorities. Healing, creating, connecting, strengthening your body. So here's the next question. Which of these 4 feels like the foundation that would make the others easier to access again? Interesting take. It's having me choose the first step that requires the least amount of lift from me, which would then create a domino of new actions. So appreciate that. I think it's connecting to myself. That feels like a very clear signal. Here's the next question. When you think about connecting to yourself, what are the moments or activities where you feel that connection most easily right now? Yeah, I feel like we're getting a little bit in the weeds right now. So I'm going to tell it that I'm ready to wrap up and go ahead and get some clear action steps named. I think connecting to myself looks like meeting my needs, like resting when I'm tired, reflecting and journaling when I'm unsure what I need, creating when there's something in my cup, and working out again to aid my physical recovery and strength goals. That sounds like a really grounded place to land. You didn't just name abstract ideas, you identified very concrete signals of self-connection. Rest when you're tired, reflect and journal when you're unclear, create when something is actually in your cup, and strengthen your body through movement. Notice something important about what you just said. None of those require you to force inspiration. They require you to respond to what's actually happening inside you. That's a very different operating system than optimize your time and push through. Fair point. Before we close, I'll offer one final reflection rather than another question. Earlier, you said you feared that loosening expectations would make you inconsistent and neglect your creativity. What emerged in this conversation suggests something else. Okay. Your creativity doesn't disappear when you slow down. It disappears when you're depleted and overriding your needs. Preach. The practices you named, rest, reflection, movement, and creating when something is already there, are not stepping away from your creativity. They're rebuilding the conditions that make creativity possible again. And something else I noticed about the day you described earlier, your dream day wasn't about massive output, it was about rhythm. Work, connection, creation, movement, rest. That rhythm may simply need to become more responsive and seasonal right now. Not abandoned, just softened. So here's the thought I'll leave you with. Instead of asking, how do I keep producing while I feel depleted? You might experiment with asking, how do I rebuild a life where my energy and creativity naturally return? You already named the first steps toward that. And honestly, the clarity you reached in this conversation suggests your inner compass is still very much working. That's nice. Okay, so let me give you my honest take. I didn't get much out of this conversation. And to be fair, I could have kept this going. Like there was opportunity for me to continue answering its questions and see where it took me. It helped me feel a little better and it shifted my thinking slightly, but too much talking on the coach's part. And the conversation just truly stayed very surface level. I'm interested to see that once I finish today's coaching sessions, what clearer programming from me would actually change the responses and questions, and if AI is really capable of going much deeper to the root of true life coaching and not just facilitating a couple of new action steps. So overall, there's room to grow. I did get something out of this conversation. It kind of helped me verbalize and verbally process what I was working through in my head. So it's definitely not without value, but it's also not the value of a life coach at all. I'm interested to see what you guys think if you got something out of this conversation or if you feel like testing this out. I will be giving access to my updated bot that should be a better coach than today's evidence in the description box through a free link. So please head there and comment below with your take on it. And with that, we've come to the end of today's episode of the Contentment Creator Podcast, where we put AI to the test to see if a chatbot can coach a life coach. Whether you caught the whole episode or one of our segments, either way, thank you so much for making it all the way to the end, and I hope that you are subscribed so you don't miss another episode. Join me in my mission to turn a world full of content creators into a world of contentment creators. Bye, y'all.